You are listening to Julia's Trucking Cafe News Hour. And welcome to Julia's Trucking Cafe Trucking News Hour. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy that you're here and that you want to listen to the trucking news. As always, I have lots of news to get to, so let's get right to it. Well, it's that time of the year again. The next big driver-focused enforcement blitz is just days away. International Road Check may be over, but the next Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, or CVSA, enforcement effort is right around the corner, starting next week. It will take place July 11th through the 17th. During the week-long effort, law enforcement officers across the country will be patrolling for commercial motor vehicle drivers and passenger cars engaging in risky driving behaviors in or around a semi. Officers will issue warnings or citations to violators. This year, the area emphasis for the blitz will be on speeding. Officers will also be on the lookout for other dangerous driving behaviors, including reckless or aggressive driving, distracted driving, following too closely, improper lane change, failure to obey traffic control devices, failure to use a seatbelt, and evidence of drunk or drug driving. The selected speeding as this year's area of emphasis because traffic fatalities are up in spite of the fact that the pandemic reduced overall roadway travel. No, it didn't. Quote, data shows that traffic stops and interactions with law enforcement help reduce problematic driving behaviors, so CVSA President Sergeant John Samus with the Delaware State Police says, quote, by making contact with drivers during Operation Safe Driver Week, law enforcement personnel aim to make our roadways safer by targeting high-risk driving behaviors. Yeah, they need to do it in the bigger cities across the country. During last year's Operation Safe Driver Week, which also focused on speeding violations, semi-drivers were issued a total of 10,736 warnings and citations for traffic enforcement violations during the week, which breaks down to 4,659 citations and 6,077 warnings. The top 5 traffic enforcement citations given to commercial motor vehicles during the 2020 Blitz were, let's go from the least to the most: improper lane change, 122. 4, using a handheld phone or texting, 269. 3, failure to obey traffic control devices, 617 citations issued. 2, failure to use a seatbelt while operating a semi, 1,003. And speeding, a basic speed, driving too fast for the conditions, 2,339. The Brake Safety Week is scheduled for August 22nd through the 28th. An additional unannounced one-day brake safety enforcement initiative will be held at some time during 2021. And in our next story, a massive explosion and fire reported at an Illinois chemical company. Officials were evacuating homes and businesses after a major fire was reported at a chemical plant in Rockton, Illinois. This happened around the 14th of June. The fire was reported at Chemtool facility at Prairie Hill Road in Rockton, Illinois. Images captured at the scene show multiple semi-trailers engulfed in flames at this docking facility. The 4-alarm fire produced massive amounts of smoke that could be seen for 25 miles. So people in Wisconsin and Chicago were able to see the smoke. Chemtool issued the following statement, and I'm sorry, it's really early in the morning that I'm trying to record this while I'm waiting to get unloaded in Boston, of all places, this week. So I'm running around Boston, so I'm trying to get this recorded while I'm waiting to load. Chemtool issued, back to the article, Chemtool issued the following statement. At approximately 7 a.m., local emergency personnel responded to a fire at the Lubrizol Corporation's Chemtool facility in Milton, Illinois. We have confirmed all on-site are safe and accounted for. Our concern right now is for the safety of all of our employees and surrounding community. As a precaution, authorities have evacuated residents in a 1-mile radius of the site. As of the writing of the article, they do not yet know what caused it, but we will be working with local authorities and with our own risk management team to determine what happened and identify any corrective actions. We will share more details as they are known. We're grateful to our employees, first responders, and safety forces responding to this incident. This is also a developing story. As facts come out, I'll make sure I report on it. And up next, failure to yield to a tractor trailer leads to a death of a motorist and their young son. 2 people were killed in a crash between a semi-truck and a car in Indiana. Incident happened on June 13th at around 2 in the morning. According to the local news, Marlon Fuentes Sr. was driving south on County Road 875 West with his 10-year-old son in the car when he failed to yield to an oncoming semi at the US 30 intersection. As a result, the westbound semi-truck struck the driver's side of the car, causing a serious collision. Both Fuentes and his young son were killed in the crash, and it was a Prax Air gas truck, if you're listening to the audio of the show, that hit the car. The truck driver was uninjured, and the identity of the truck driver involved was not released at the time of the writing of the article. And in this story, the American Trucking Association and Louisiana truckers urge a signing of an important highway funding bill. The American Trucking Association has joined together with the Louisiana Motor Transport Association to support a bill that would fund highway infrastructure across the state of Louisiana. The bill in question, House Bill 514, would provide $300 million in funding for highway infrastructure across the state, including bridges, and would subsequently improve the flow of freight in Louisiana and the country as a whole. HB 514 already passed in the House and Senate by an overwhelming majority and will now need to be signed into law by Governor John Bel Edwards. This is a historic piece of legislation that would provide significant new funding for our transportation system. It is an investment in our future economic competitiveness, safety, and prosperity, said Executive Director Renee Amar. Governor Edwards should sign this bill quickly so Louisianians can begin seeing its benefits, end quote. Quote, as the federal government continues to debate investing in our nation's roads and bridges, lawmakers in Louisiana are not waiting and stepping up to address their state's needs, which they should. We are pleased to see the bipartisanship that led to the passage of this bill, and we urge Governor Edwards to sign it into law. And after 48 years, a truck driver training school suspends operations, citing pandemic unemployment benefits as the cause. An Ohio truck driver training school will be discontinuing their services after nearly 50 years due to struggles associated with COVID-19. You notice how everything now is the fault of COVID-19? The TDDS Technical Institute, based in Lake Milton, Ohio, will be shuttering training operations for student truck drivers and diesel mechanics, the company announced. In the letter, company CEO and owner Rick Rathburn pointed to the increased unemployment benefits offered due to the pandemic as a major reason for the closure. Everybody's looking for help now because nobody wants to work. We all see this. Quote, most of our target student population found comfort in the enhanced unemployment compensation opportunity and have taken advantage of that benefit versus an educational path afforded to those in need of a well-paying career. Yada, yada, yada. Rathburn also pointed to low revenue, staffing problems, and increased cost of day-to-day operations and months of delays to the federal financial aid assistance renewal process as additional reasons for the school closure. Local news reports that the school will be up for sale, but if owners are unable to find a buyer, they will instead sell off the equipment and the property. They've been in operation since 1973. And up next, Illinois troopers want to speak to a truck driver in connection with a fatal motorcycle crash on Interstate 80. In this story, Illinois State Police announced that they are seeking a truck driver following a fatal motorcycle accident that occurred on Interstate 80 last week. I'm going to keep saying Iowa 80. This happened June 9th. They shared on Facebook indicating that they are seeking a truck driver who may have been a non-contact vehicle in a motorcycle crash. According to the police department, the crash occurred at 7:43 on Interstate 80 westbound at milepost 126 between Shorewood and Canahan, Illinois. Troopers say that Wade lost control and struck the median wires/pole. Wade was taken to a local hospital following the crash, where he was later pronounced dead. The Wade, I guess, was the motorcycle rider. Here again, I'm sorry, I missed a spot. It killed Devin Wade. He was 25 years old and a resident of Illinois. Illinois State Police say that the driver, a white truck tractor white semi-trailer who could have been a non-contact vehicle, reportedly stopped briefly after the crash but left the scene. According to the witnesses, the driver of the semi did pull over post-crash, exited his truck, walked around, and subsequently left. We're looking to speak to the driver of the semi, see if any passing motorist at the time had a dash cam that captured the commercial vehicle parked on the shoulder. It is a one-unit crash with no suspicion that the semi-driver is at fault. Some local news outlets are reporting that witnesses said that the semi-truck cut off Wade's motorcycle and caused him to lose control. If you have any information about this truck that was parked on the shoulder of Interstate 80 around milepost 126 on June 3rd, you could call 815-726-6377. That's 815-726-6377 to give your anonymous report. And officials say the largest highway closure ever going according to plan in Sacramento. A large construction project aimed at completing a series of bridge deck repairs on Highway 99 in Sacramento is right on schedule despite its massive scale. The road closures for these repairs began on June 11th and are expected to last through the 16th of June, which they are already done. There again, I'm a day late, $1 short. They were pouring concrete, which adheres to the girders, and then later on in the afternoon they were putting a polyester overlay over it. According to officials, it's a very special concrete that hopefully will withstand the test of time because there's a lot of freight and it's a lot of a high traffic lanes that go through there. Although the road closure was large at the time, much of the work was done off-site to prevent even more extensive road closure. So that should be all done in Sacramento. And a company is recalling millions of sleep apnea machines due to cancer and other health risks. A major medical device manufacturer, Philips, has issued a recall of CPAP machines for sleep apnea sufferers due to potential health risks. On June 14th, they issued the recall for certain bilevel positive airway pressure, bilevel PAP, continuous positive air pressure, CPAP, and mechanical ventilator devices due to possible health risks associated with sound dampening polyester-based polyurethane foam used in those devices. The company says that the foam may degrade into particles which may enter the device's air path and be ingested or inhaled by the user, and the foam may off-gas certain chemicals. The inhaled foam could cause headache, irritation, inflammation, respiratory issues, and possible toxic and carcinogenic effects. Chemicals inhaled through off-gassing may cause headache, irritation, hypersensitivity, nausea, vomiting, and possible toxic and carcinogenic effects. Royal Philips say they have no confirmed reports of any health issues caused by their medical devices at the time of writing of this article. The recall may affect 3 to 4 million medical devices, about half of which are in the United States. So that means about 1 to 2 million are here. Phillips says that most of the recall devices are DreamStation products. So if you are, this is me personally saying this, not the article. If you are experiencing any kind of headache, irritation, being inflamed, respiratory issues, your breathing worsens, stop using that machine if it's a DreamStation machine and it is made by Philips, and report it to the company. And up next, there's a video of a train hitting a semi. Luckily, nobody was hurt. This happened in Florida around June 14th. According to the local news, truck driver Eddie Rosa was on his way to Walmart, and when he missed his turn, his GPS redirected him and ended up trying to cross railroad tracks. That's where the trouble really began. Rosa's rig got stuck while trying to cross the tracks, so he called his company but quickly noticed a train company, so he exited his rig. Rosa then grabbed a flashlight and ran towards the train, waving the flashlight in hopes of getting the conductor's attention. Rosa says the train blew its horn and appears to have tried to stop, but it was already too late. Yeah, when they're barreling about 70 miles an hour, locomotive smashed through the trailer, spilling dairy products everywhere. Yeah, cut that trailer pretty much in half. Luckily, he wasn't hurt in the incident, but the wreck did leave quite a mess. So I'm glad that he didn't get hurt. You have to always be careful of when your GPS is going to be redirecting you. I miss my turn a lot. And in this story, only minor injury sustained in a wreck that smashed two semis. No one was seriously hurt in a wreck that demolished two semi-trucks in Washington State. This happened on June 15th near Snoqualmie. According to the local news, a wreck happened on westbound Interstate 90 east of State Route 18. Details surrounding the crash were not released at the time, but neither driver was seriously hurt in the incident. The front of both rigs were significantly damaged, and the wreck looks like somebody rear-ended another one. Officials warn of delays for those passing through the area at that time. And a burning RV rolled into a semi, shutting down Interstate 70. A semi-truck and RV got tangled up and were heavily damaged by fire in an incident that snarled traffic on Interstate 70 in Colorado. Excuse me. The incident occurred around 10:30 in the morning on westbound Interstate 70 near Lookout Mountain. Officials say that the RV caught fire, then rolled into a semi-truck, which also caught fire. Truck driver was able to escape the cab without injury. Colorado troopers say that the RV was unoccupied when it caught fire. Both vehicles sustained major damage from the blaze. Westbound I-70 remained closed until 2 p.m. that day. And if you're an old timer like me and you're watching this on the video, remember what these are? Remember the old document holders that used to be on the front of a trailer of a semi? And it was just like a piece of pipe that was with a holder that was screwed on, and you had two rubber ends to it, and you would roll up your registration or something and slide it into that tube. Well, it was mistaken for a pipe bomb. Number one, it can't be a pipe bomb because pipe bombs have metal ends to it, not rubber ends to it. A metal document holder designed for installation on a semi was mistaken for a pipe bomb in Michigan. This happened June 15th around 10 o'clock in the morning in Marquette, Michigan. According to the local news, the object was sitting on a FedEx drop box in front of a post office and the federal courthouse, where it was reported to police, who immediately worked to evacuate the courthouse and other businesses in the area as a precaution. Oh my God, they should know you can't make a pipe bomb out of rubber ends. Our concern was for the safety of everyone inside the federal courthouse and everybody inside the businesses in the surrounding area. Officers then used a canine officer to determine that the object was not a threat and eventually realized what the supposed pipe bomb actually was: a metal document holder designed to be mounted on the outside of a semi-trailer, not truck. It is a document cargo holder car argument is typically affixed to the back of a semi-tractor trailers that hold, for example, registration, work, and things like that. So, they didn't even write this article right. It's on the front of the trailer, not the back. It's a tubular device with caps on both ends, so that was what our concern at that particular time was, that it wasn't some type of explosive device. So we wanted to make absolute certain that it was in fact safe before we rerouted traffic back to normal and allowed people back in their businesses. Police say they aren't sure where the object came from, but that the citizen who reported it did the right thing. Well, of course. So, yeah, they got a good scare. That's enough to get your blood pressure up a little bit. I think it's kind of funny, but anyway. And a trucker's intentional rollover saved a young man's life. A truck driver's evasive action saved the life of a motorist who made a bad decision in Michigan. This happened June 14th. At the intersection of M53 and M90, Michigan state routes. A milk tanker truck was heading south on Michigan 53 when a car entered the road from Michigan 90 and turned left in front of the oncoming rig. The trucker immediately swerved left to avoid striking the motorist, sloshing all of the milk to one side of the tanker. In other words, such a jerk like that really got the milk moving and causing the rig to roll over and rolled completely over at least once before the tanker and the tractor detached, leaving the cab upside down in a nearby field. And the whole right side of the truck and the cab, top of the cab, is completely gone. Miraculously, the truck driver was able to crawl out on his own and sustained only minor cuts and bruises. I mean, the whole back of the cab is smooshed down to the front where the driver would be sitting. So the whole back of a day cab was completely smooshed forward, and it's just like a crumpled mess if you watch the video. It looks like it rolled together as a unit at least once before the truck detached and ended upside down in the field facing west. He was able to crawl out with only minor scrapes and scratches, like I mentioned. The trucker was transported to the nearby hospital just to be checked on, but was later released. Officers say that both the motorist and the trucker are very lucky to have made it out so unscathed, but praise the trucker for sacrificing his rig to save that motorist's life. The driver saved the man's life by what he did. He could have been killed when his truck rolled. They were both very lucky, and good thing he was hauling milk and not gasoline or other materials, because it could have been much worse. A small amount of milk had to be cleaned up following the crash, and the big rig was so mangled that the remains had to be broken into pieces and hauled away by a large piece of construction equipment. Yeah, he had to pick it up with a big arm on a tow truck, like you see on that highway to hell. The motorist issued a citation for the incident, and his car sustained no damage, but it totaled out, a $100,000 truck. And a Cuban citizen in this story pleads guilty in CDL bribe scheme. A man recently pled guilty to charges related to a commercial driver's license bribery scheme involving Texas Department of Public Safety employee. On May 21st, Marino Mori Diaz Leon, a Cuban citizen who was living in San Antonio area, pled guilty in U.S. District Court for the Western District of Texas to conspiracy to commit mail and honest services fraud. These charges are connected to a multiple year-long scheme to help people fraudulently acquire CDLs by bribing a state licensing worker. Authorities say that from January 2017 through June 30th, 2019, Leon and two co-conspirators paid a Texas DPS worker to assert that applicants had passed their skills test when they had actually failed the test or had never taken the test in the first place. Remember me reporting on this if you listen to earlier episodes of my show. The DPS worker reportedly supplied Leon and co-conspirator with temporary CDLs and then mailed permanent CDLs to be given out to the applicants. Shortly after the scheme was discovered in 2019, the FBI said that the DPS employee issued 215 fraudulent CDLs, mostly to people of Cuban descent, in exchange for thousands of dollars worth of bribes. These CDLs were revoked by officials in Texas after the fraud scheme came to light. Leon is scheduled for sentencing September 1st, which I'm sure I will be reporting about. He's going to have a long time in the pokey. And now let's take a short... This episode of Julia's Trucker Cafe is brought to you by My Patriot Supply. As truck drivers, we all know what it's like to be at a shipper's or receiver's and have to wait to be loaded for hours on end. Am I right? Especially produce coolers and paper mills. That's why you need to be prepared with extra food in your truck, especially with the bad weather coming in, like it is over here in Kansas, up in the Dakotas and Minnesota. 90 was shut down, Interstate 94 was shut down, along with 29. What are you going to do if there's no food and a truck stop was without power? That's why you need to stay prepared with My Patriot Supply. Now it's not what you're thinking. My Patriot Supply is delicious emergency food. They have food kits that are good up to 25 years. They come in a slimline tote that you can easily store in your food pantry or under your bunk. I can speak from experience. After living through Hurricane Katrina, we were without power for 10 days, me, my mother, son, and I. If it weren't for the MREs that were flown into us, we wouldn't have any food. There was 4 60-foot pine trees that broke in half during that storm and crossed my driveway and landlocked me in. That's when My Patriot Supply would have come in handy. If I knew then what I know now about My Patriot Supply, I definitely have some of this food stockpiled in my pantry. Now, for a limited time, you could get a 1-week supply of food in a handy and neat-looking ammo can, like you see here, for just $39. Look at all that food you get. It's a week's worth of breakfast, lunch, and dinners, just for $39. How do you get it? Where do you go, do you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Just go to my website at juliastruckercafe.com, click on the Emergency Food Supply tab, scroll down and click on any of the images to find out more information and get yours today. They even offer gluten-free food for under $100. Winter weather is here. What would you do if the interstate was shut down, just like I was talking about? You need to get My Patriot Supply and get it today. Welcome back to Julia's Trucker Cafe Truckin' News Hour. Let's get back to the news. In this story, a trucker abandons a rig after smashing through cars and into a house. Police are on search for a trucker that fled the scene after crashing into a house in Ohio. The incident happened on June 16th in Grand Rapids, Ohio at State Route 65 and Wapakoneta Road. According to the local news, the rig struck multiple cars before smashing into the side of a house. The driver then fled the scene, leaving his empty rig behind. Police are describing the suspect as a black man wearing a maroon shirt and jeans, which could be anybody. Quote, "I was just amazed at how I was able to go through the whole entire bottom of the house," said Sean Downey, owner of the home. "It's not every day that you've got a 53-foot semi going from the southwest corner all the way to the northeast corner," he said to the local news outlet. "It literally made it through the whole downstairs of the house." Well, duh. The driver's company says they haven't heard from him in 2 days, stating that he strayed from his route and they haven't been able to get in touch with him since. Officials suspect the driver is experiencing mental health or medical issues. Yeah, they'll just hire anybody now, won't they? And a collision with a deer tosses a motorcyclist into the path of an oncoming semi. A motorcyclist is dead after striking a deer and sliding into the path of an oncoming semi in Minnesota. This happened June 15th around 2 in the morning on Highway 95 in Princeton Township. According to the local news, the motorcyclist was traveling east on Highway 95 when it struck a deer in the road. Impact caused the motorcycle to overturn and slide, throwing the rider into the westbound lane of the highway in front of a pickup truck hauling a trailer. Well, that's not a semi. Oh, these people that write these articles, I swear. The pickup truck driver swerved but still ran over the motorcyclist with the trailer, a semi-truck that also struck the rider who did not survive the incident. The identities of those involved were not released at the time of the writing. And if you're watching the video, have you seen this woman? Fort Worth police are looking for her. following an armed robbery of a sleeping truck driver. Fort Worth police are asking for the help from the public in identifying a female suspect who is believed to be involved in an overnight armed robbery of a truck driver. Robbery occurred around 1:30 in the morning on June 10th in South Fort Worth, according to the local news release from the Fort Worth Police Department. Police say that a truck driver was asleep in a parking lot across the street from a warehouse when a white female knocked on the door of his truck. The driver said that he initially thought that the woman was a security guard who was there to tell him that he could not unload his truck at the warehouse across the street. Instead, the woman asked him for help. Another female suspect appeared, and the woman convinced the driver to exit his truck. It was at this point that an armed male approached the truck driver from behind and demanded his property. The suspect stole the truck driver's cell phone, wallet with his credit cards before fleeing in a white older model vehicle. Fort Worth police are specifically asking the public for help in identifying the first female suspect, who they describe as a heavy-set woman between 30 and 40 years of age, about 5'8", with purple or blue highlights in her hair. She also has large tattoos on her chest and upper right arm. Anyone with information is asked to call Fort Worth Police Department at 817-392-4469. That's 817-392-4469. In Memphis, police say 46 guns were stolen from a semi-trailer at a Bass Pro Shop. Memphis Police Department are asking for help from the public in locating suspects who stole dozens of firearms from a trailer. This happened on June 14th around 6 in the morning. Using some store surveillance footage, they were able to determine that 3 vehicles were used to steal a total of 46 firearms, 23 long guns, 2 assault rifles, 2 hunting rifles, 19 semi-auto shotguns, said the Memphis PD. They weren't able to obtain a physical description of any of the suspects. However, they were able to identify the vehicles. One's a 2013 silver Kia Sorento, unknown light brown gold sedan, and a silver Infiniti G35. The Memphis police shared the surveillance video of the suspects. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers at 528-CASH. A reward of $1,000 may be available if a tip leads to an arrest. The FBI and the ATF are assisting Memphis PD in that investigation. And in this story, $6.5 million worth of drugs were discovered inside a semi. A wide variety of drugs were discovered inside of a semi at Texas-Mexico border. Does that surprise anybody? The drugs were found on Monday, June 14th. According to the local news, the drugs were discovered inside of a shipment of floor tile through X-ray imaging. Officers seized 203 pounds of methamphetamine, over 40 pounds of heroin, almost 80 pounds of cocaine, and over 5,100 assorted pills of fentanyl, oxycodone, and meth. The assorted narcotics have an approximate street value of $6,582,600. Quote, the seizure was accomplished due to great all-around teamwork, beginning with analytical research, use of technology, and the endless commitment to border security mission of keeping dangerous drugs from continuing their trek into our communities. Blah, 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 blah. That's what they always say when they seize drugs. And here is a little bit better news story. A family says a missing retired over-the-road driver with cancer may be at a truck stop. A Georgia family was asking for help in locating a former truck driver who went missing while suffering from cancer. Roy Harris, 61, was last seen leaving his home in Henry County east of McDonough, Georgia, on foot around 12:30 Sunday, June 13th. He was suffering from liver cancer, and family members say that he's physically frail and disoriented. He reportedly left home without his medication. Because of his background in trucking, family members think that he may have made his way to a truck stop on I-75 to try to get a ride from a truck driver. Family members also speculate that he may be trying to make his way to Florida, where he grew up and lived for many years. And an update on that story is that he was found safe and sound. So, spoiler alert, he was found safe and sound. And up next, police are searching for a rig that sideswiped the trooper as the trooper spoke with a different truck driver. The Massachusetts State Police are searching for a semi-truck that sideswiped an officer as he spoke with another trucker on the side of the road. This happened June 16th in Hopkinton, Massachusetts. Lieutenant was speaking with another truck driver on the side of Route 495 when a second semi struck the officer and his police cruiser before fleeing the scene. The officer suffered injuries to his arms and hands, and the incident was transported to a nearby hospital. They're looking for help in locating this truck. Anyone with information about this truck, which, I mean, there's no kind of markings really on it or anything, you could call 508-721-4040. That's 508-721-4040. And in Nebraska, troopers only inspected 26 trucks in this story, but found 124 violations during a surprise blitz. Officers with the Nebraska State Patrol uncovered more than 100 violations during a round of surprise truck inspections. The inspection effort was carried out by the Nebraska Transportation Carrier Enforcement Division in Lincoln on June 16th. During the single-day effort, troopers conducted 26 inspections and now uncovered 124 violations of federal FMCSA regs and state laws. Troopers say that 29 of these violations were severe enough to warrant an out-of-service order. Additionally, 3 drivers were taken out of service. 1 second. My laptop is dying, so I have to hurry up and get it plugged in, so I apologize for all the rattling around. 10 of the inspected vehicles or trailers were presented to the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, indicating that the vehicle had no critical safety violations. There, now I'm all plugged up. At least my laptop is. And wouldn't you like to be in this area? Money scattered across the intersection after alleged drug dealer drives into the side of a semi-truck. What a moron. A motorist is facing multiple drug charges after crashing into the side of a moving semi-truck in Nebraska. This happened June 16th around 4:30 in the afternoon in Lincoln. According to local news, a black SUV was heading east on Old Cheney Road, stopped at a stop sign, then drove into the side of a semi-truck traveling through the intersection. The crash injured the 39-year-old motorist, Gregory Snyder, and scattered $20,000 in cash from the inside of his car all across the intersection. The truck driver was not hurt. An off-duty officer then happened to pass by the crash and helped get Snyder to a nearby hospital. Officers were then able to collect the $18,896 of the $20,000 that had been inside of Snyder's car. As Snyder's vehicle was being processed for towing, officers discovered pills, 15 grams of shrooms, tabs of LSD, and 2 glass jars of marijuana totaling 5.5 grams. Snyder has been released from the hospital and is currently being held in jail. He's facing possession of controlled substance charges and was also cited for DUI, third offense, and no proof of insurance. Sorry, my tummy is talking to me this morning. It's not real happy. And in this story, a strap failure is blamed for a big rig lumber spill in Georgia. And don't believe a lot of the television reports, that a truck overturned and all this kind of stuff, like this gentleman on, he tweeted about. And I'm like, 11 Alive reporter, a truck overturned and yada, yada, yada. No, it didn't. The Georgia Department of Public Safety is pointing to a strap failure and not a load securement as the cause for a massive lumber spill that snarled traffic. It happened on southbound I-75. No serious injuries were reported, but the incident did cause big traffic backups as crews worked to clean up the spilled lumber. It looks like he just took the pile of, almost like matchsticks, and how you just lay them out across the table all nice in a row. That's what the lumber looks like in this photo. The Georgia Department of Public Safety took to social media to clarify that the lumber spill was caused by a strap failure and not a problem with load securement. The agency reminded truck drivers to check their straps for defects before use. And I hear when flatbeds go by me quite a bit, I hear straps snapping and flapping all the time. Yeah, that's because it's a loose strap. From what I understand, I run a reefer. I don't run a flatbed, but that's what I get from other flatbedders. And in this story, a trucker is arrested after allegedly assaulting a trooper, during a road rage investigation. A truck driver was taken into custody after allegedly assaulting an investigating officer following a road rage incident. This happened June 17th in Pennsylvania. According to the local news, the trooper was heading north on Interstate 81 in Wilkes-Barre Township when he noticed a semi-truck and SUV pulled over onto the side of the road and two men were fighting. The trooper then pulled over to investigate and discovered that the motorist, who was an off-duty DC police officer, claimed that the trucker had cut him off in a construction zone. The off-duty cop then says he pulled over and the trucker, Ruzicki, pulled over as well and exited his rig holding a crowbar. The off-duty cop claims that he had been informed Ruzicki that he was an off-duty officer as Ruzicki pushed him, ripping the off-duty officer's shorts. Ruzicki's side of the story alleges that the off-duty cop was the one who cut him off. According to his side of the story, the officer in the SUV sped up and turned in front of the rig while merging into the construction zone. The officer in the SUV then allegedly brake-checked the rig, flipped off the trucker, and pulled over to the shoulder. Ruzicki denied holding a crowbar initially, but later claimed he had been holding a pair of channel locks. The investigating officer continued to question the trucker. Ruzicki allegedly decided to say, "F you, not answering any more of your questions." I would say the same thing. And this is a good story about this is where cameras, dash cams, come into play. As the investigating officer, Ruzicki then began walking away toward his truck. The investigating officer grabbed his arm, which he should have never done because that's assault. The officer assaulted him by grabbing him and pushed him against the trailer, prompting Ruzicki to struggle. You don't do that. You don't I don't care who you are, you don't lay your hands on me. If I'm walking away, it's because I don't want to deal with your butt anymore. Officer, with all due respect, I'm going to go back to my truck. I need to calm down. Another officer then helped apprehend the trucker, but the struggle left the investigating officer with a bloody lip, a ripped tie, and broken sunglasses. Boo-hoo. Ruzicki was arraigned Tuesday by District Court Judge Rick Cronauer in the County Central Court on charges of aggravated assault. Well, he should have never popped the driver. He should have just kept walking away. And in this story, prosecutors agreed to drop charges against a tanker driver who was swarmed by protesters on a Minneapolis bridge. Prosecutors have agreed not to move forward with charges against a truck driver who was accused of driving into a large group of protesters in Minneapolis last summer. Friday, Hennepin County prosecutors and 36-year-old truck driver Bogdan Vichurko entered into continuous without prosecution agreement during an online court appearance. Per the agreement, prosecutors will no longer pursue a felony count of threats of violence against and a gross misdemeanor count of criminal vehicular operation against him as long as he doesn't get into legal trouble in the next year. And up next, an Indiana sheriff warns about an age-old truck stop scam. Police are warning truckers that it seems too good to be true. It probably is. Following a robbery in an Indiana truck stop parking lot. This happened June 17th at a Love's in St. Paul, Indiana. According to the local sheriff, 5 white males in a black Chrysler van were conducting a scam in the parking lot. Police say that suspects claimed to have won the lottery and invited drivers to double or triple their money by picking a card. When the victim produced a sum of cash, which you don't do, The suspects forcibly took the money and fled the scene in the black van. They say it's an age-old scam. Anybody who witnessed this robbery is asked to call Decatur County Sheriff at 812-663-8125. That's 812-663-8125. And real quickly, here's what truckers need to know about heat cramps and heat exhaustion, along with heat stroke. In this article, as temperatures rise during the summer, truckers are often exposed to dangerously hot conditions that can lead to heat-related illnesses. Here's what you need to know. Excessive heat can have deadly consequences. Heat cramps, symptoms, painful muscle cramps and spasm, usually in the legs and abdomen, and heavy sweating. First aid, apply firm pressure on cramping muscles or gently massage to relieve the spasm. Give sips of water unless the person complains of nausea, then stop the water. Heat exhaustion is heavy sweating, weakness or tiredness, cool, pale, clammy skin, fast, weak pulse, muscle cramps, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, headache, and fainting. The first aid is loosen clothing, apply a cool, wet cloth, or have a person sit in a cool bath, offer sips of water. If the person vomits more than once, quit the water and seek medical attention. Heat stroke is a throbbing headache, confusion, nausea, dizziness, body temperature above 103, hot, red, dry, or damp skin, rapid and strong pulse, fainting, loss of consciousness. First aid, you immediately call 911 and get to a hospital, victim to the hospital immediately. Don't try to do anything. The delay can be fatal. Move the victim to a cooler, preferably air-conditioned environment, reducing the body temperature with cool cloths or a bath. Use fan if heat index temperatures are below the high 90s. A fan can make you hotter at higher temperatures. Do not give fluids to someone with heat stroke. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you who tune in to listen to me each week here on the cafe. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe using the link below, or on CloudHub, please subscribe at the top of the page. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. As I said, please, if you wouldn't mind, stop in if you're on Facebook and give us a like on Facebook. Also join our discussion group at Julia's Trucking Cafe Regulars. And if you wouldn't mind, subscribing to our newsletter at juliastruckingcafe.com/newsletter. So thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time. You have been listening to Julia's Trucking Cafe Truckin' News Hour. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Take care. Have a blessed day.